Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodhanandana Bhajananandana Yasodhanandana Bhajananandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada 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 ki jai, Grantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga. 9. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 23, Devahuti's Lamentation, text number 9. Evam Bruvanam Abalakita Yogamaya Vijja Vichaksanam Aviksha Katadir Asid. Excuse me. Samprasraya Pranaya Vivalaya Girisad Vridavaloka Vilasadasitananaha. Evam Bruvanam Abalakila Yogamaya Vijja Vichaksanam Aviksha Gattadirase. Samprasraya Pranaya Vivalaya Girisad Vridavaloka Vilasatasitananaha. Evam Bruvanam Abalakita Yogamaya Vijja Vichaksanam Aviksha Gattadirasid. Samprasraya Pranaya Vivalaya Girisad Vridavaloka Vilasatasitananaha. Ladies? Evam, thus, Bruvanam, speaking, Abala, the woman, Akila, all, Yogamaya, of transcendental science, Vidya Vichaksanam, excelling in knowledge, Aviksha, after hearing, Gata Adi, satisfied, Asid, she, Vivalaya, choked up. Did I skip a line? Yeah, sorry, she became, yeah, I skipped the line. Asid, she became, Samprasraya, with humility, Pranaya, and with love, Vivalaya, choked up, Gira, with a voice, Ishat, slightly, Vrida, bashful, Avaloka, with a glance, Vilasat, shining, Hasita, smiling, Anana, her face, Aha, she spoke. Translation. Upon hearing the speaking of her husband, who excelled in knowledge of all kinds of transcendental science, innocent Devahuti was very satisfied. Her smiling face shining with a slightly bashful glance, she spoke in a choked voice because of great humility and love. Purport. It is said that if one is already engaged in Krishna consciousness and is rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord, then it can be supposed that he has finished all the recommended courses of austerity, penance, religious sacrifice, mystic yoga, and meditation. Devahuti's husband was so expert in transcendental science that there was nothing for him to argue about, and when she heard him speak, she was confident that since he was very much advanced in devotional service, she had already surpassed all transcendental educational activities. She had no doubt about the gifts offered by her husband. She knew that he was expert in offering such gifts, and when she understood that he was offering the greatest gift, she was very satisfied. She was overwhelmed with ecstatic love, and therefore she could not reply. Then with faltering language, just like an attractive wife, she spoke the following words. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyanandana Salakaya Shakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The relationship between Kadamba Muni and his wife was not an ordinary mundane relationship. It was a transcendental relationship based on worship and knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is how a relationship between husband and wife can become auspicious. Otherwise, such a relationship it can, when it is simply on the mundane platform, can bind one in material existence for many, many lifetimes. Somehow or other, the foundation of material existence is sex life. It is described as Maitunya Agara, the chains of sex life which bind us in the material world. But in a relationship between Kadamba Muni and Devahuti, that even those activities were Dharma Viruddha Bhutte Sukamasmi Bharatar Sabha, even their sexual activities as husband and wife were transcendental. They were also according to religious principles. And then they did not become an obstacle to spiritual advancement. So that is the proper standard for household life. Therefore, household life should be based on transcendental knowledge, on thoroughly understanding Srimad Bhagavatam, especially, and of course Bhagavad Gita. The Vaishnav Shastra, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying, Vaishnav and Vaishnav Shastra, these are essential, that we worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, somehow or other. And not only in a ritualistic way, but by becoming absorbed. That is the purpose of any ashram anyway, whether we are in a more renounced ashram or whether we are in the Grihastha ashram. It doesn't really matter. The essence of ashram is simply Sravanam Kirtanam Smaranam, to always, Vishnu Smaranam, I should say, to always remember, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Smartavyam satatam Vishnu vismartavyo na jatusit sarvavidi nisedu shur etio eva kinkaram. The very purpose of all the regulative principles, of all the prohibitions and all the injunctions in the scripture is to always remember Krishna and to never forget him. And that is our conscious, constant activity. It said that the spiritual master, his activity is sapta pare chanisnatam brahmani upasamasrayam. His activity is to be always absorbed in transcendental sound vibration, hearing about Krishna, chanting the holy name, constantly transcendental sound vibration. That is sabda pare chanisnatam. That is like Prabhupada said, this nisnatam relates to the word snan, taking a bath. So in this way, just as we are bathing the body again and again because the body loses its freshness, in the same way the consciousness also, we are bathing again and again. And so Kadamba Muni had spent a lifetime. He had spent a lifetime being absorbed in transcendence, and the result was manifesting now. That whatever came from his mouth, it just transcendental knowledge was flowing like a river, because he had just absorbed for a long time transcendental knowledge. And transcendental knowledge is never to be compared to ordinary philosophy. Sometimes we can be impressed how close philosophers came, how they were almost there, how they, you just wonder, how did they figure it out all by themselves? Amazing. but somehow or other they are still so far away. So pantas tukoti sattavatsara sampragamyo vayoratapi manasum munipungavanam supyasti yat prapadi chintyabi chincha tattva govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. One cannot touch the tip of the toe of the Lord by philosophical speculation. That is not possible. Bhaktyamam abhijanati. Only by devotional service can we know Krishna. Only when Krishna reveals himself. Therefore, transcendental knowledge is, although it is transcendental philosophy, it goes beyond the philosophy of mundane speculators, because transcendental philosophy is being implemented. We may not always be aware how much philosophy is affecting everyday life, but it is a fact. I can give one example. How, for example, Nietzsche, who was an atheist, as we know, came up with a philosophy that man is living in a hostile universe, and therefore man is always in war with his environment. This is this is the foundation of modern society. Modern society is simply based on that principle. There are bugs that eat the vegetables, spray them. There's a virus, okay, knock it out somehow or other. Whatever it is, our culture is always at war, at every step of the way, at war with our environment. But Vaishnavas are having a sublime philosophy, a philosophy which is actually going to the root of things, not just describing the external shell. In talking about the external shell and philosophy, it brings to mind how ancient Greek philosophers were trying to explain the phenomena of nature. And at one point, one philosopher had developed this idea that we live in a big copper ball, and that outside that copper ball there is a huge fire, and that there are holes in the ball, and the holes are stars, and then a big hole is the sun, and like this they try to figure out the nature of existence. But this process, okay, although very creative, and although interesting, entertaining, certainly, right? A copper ball with holes and a fire outside, I find it kind of entertaining, But although it may be entertaining, the fundamental problem with that approach to knowledge is that it is an ascending process, the aroha panta. The aroha panta, the ascending process of trying to gain knowledge, is the process where we start out from ignorance, and then on the strength of logic and our own intelligence, we're trying to figure out reality. And then we may carry on and even cooperate with others and build on the speculations of those who came before us. And this is the aroha panta. It's like today something popped up on my phone screen about coronavirus news, and this time it targeted singing. It said that singing is more dangerous than speaking. It said when you speak, and if you have the virus, then some few particles of the virus are entering into the air. but it's only very little. And it's said that it all depends on the load that a person gets, right? If someone coughs in your face, you get a big load all at once. If someone speaks, there's little load. But if you're for a long time in a closed room with someone who speaks, then the load builds up. So, but when they start singing, oh, so much load goes into the air. Therefore, in certain houses of worship, they allow only silent prayer. I don't know who's behind all of this, but it's like Nivishe, Sunyavad, and all these things are behind it. It's like impersonalism is behind it. We're trying, and we see Prabhupada's solution, Harinam Sankirtan, for the plague in Calcutta. Harinam Sankirtan, just simply chant the holy name everywhere, because it is based not on this aroha, on man climbing to greater and greater heights, not only in knowledge but also in general in civilization. This is the civilization, the demoniac civilization, the Ravana civilization, who wanted to make a staircase to heaven. Is that why all these sacrifices? All these yagyas to attain heavenly planets. You know, who wants to do all this? Who wants to do austerities and all these things? I have a better idea. We'll make a staircase. Then we can just go anytime we want. Yes, we'll make a staircase. We'll go to the moon by some rocket, some things. We'll go there in this way. But man, in the past, man conquered planet Earth, and now man will conquer the universe. The ascending process, the ascending lifestyle. The Vedic culture is very different. It is the Avaroha Panta. The Avaroha Panta means the descending process, where knowledge descends. It is revealed. Srota Panta. The Srota Panta, the path of hearing what has been revealed, the Sruti, that which has been heard, which came from the breath of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then was heard by Lord Brahma in his meditation, and then came from the mouth of Lord Brahma and entered into the universe, the Srotapanta, and then was repeated throughout the universe. The demigods were echoing these Vedic literatures. And it says when the kinnaras are flying in the celestial regions, the flapping of their wings produces the Samaveda. So this is amazing. How the sound of the Samaveda is constantly heard in the higher regions of the universe, descending from the Supreme Lord. And that transcendental knowledge descends throughout the universe. The Brahmanas are dedicated to this transcendental sound. The Brahmanas are reciting the Vedic literature, also reciting. Sometimes people wonder, how do you memorize verses? How about reciting? Just everyday reciting. We know all the songs, right? We know all the songs, we memorized them. If we would just recite a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita every day, after a while, we would know it. Right? We would know it. It's like, one devotee forced me to do that when I first joined, and I still remember Gyanantaham Savigyanam. Idam vakshami aveshataha yatskyatvaneha bhuvan yatskyatavam avasishyate manushanam sahasresu kaschijatati siddhiye. Simply from reciting, so many years ago, can still do the 7th chapter. right? Because I recited it every day. It's burnt in the brain. It's just there. And I hope from the brain into the heart. Because what is the use? What is the use of transcendental knowledge when it doesn't penetrate in the heart? What is the use of the words of a poet? What is the use of the arrow of a hunter if it doesn't pierce the heart and make the head spin? Yes. What is the use? What is the use? This transcendental knowledge is not just about knowledge and philosophy, although that is there. In the yesterday, of course, the disappearance day of Ramananda Rai, and Maharaj was lecturing on that topic. And later in the day I also did, because, it's just such a prominent personality. And then in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have the Ramananda Samvat, right? And in this Ramananda Samvat, we go through different verses. First, a verse from the Vishnu Purana establishing Varna Ashram. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that through Varna Ashram we can attain perfection. Lord Chaitanya rejects it. That's external. Then going into the verse, Yat karosi yat asnasi, whatever you do, whatever you eat, and so on, offer that to me. And then, okay, still not satisfied, once more. And then we come to Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasosati Nakangshati Samasarvisa Bhuta Sumat Bhaktim Labate Param. So that verse is saying, first you come to the Brahman platform. First you realize you're not the body. First you thoroughly realize you are an eternal spirit soul. Right? And then, Krishna Nichadas. And then that we are the eternal servant of Krishna. And then we engage in devotional service. Because if we engage in devotional service and at the same time are fully identifying with the material body, and every little quirk of the material body, every little pushing of the senses is immediately to be listened to and adhered to, yes, kamadinam kotida pulita duni desam tesam jatamina karuna trapataya, yes, O senses, whatever you order, that I will do, I will supply, yes. Your wishes. But it says, na karuna na tapatraya, these senses, they have no mercy. They have no mercy. They make you perform endless austerity. And it's never enough. Bring more, says the tongue. Bring more. But, you've eaten already to the point of explosion. One more. Bring one more sweet. But you're going to die. I don't care. Give me two. Yes. Vacha vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jivra vegam, udra pasta vegam, tongue, belly, genital. Oh my God. Now it gets really complicated. Sex, desire. How to deal with this? The pressure, Freud's pressure cooker, let out the steam. That's what Freud said. Let out the steam. Yes. What else can you do? Otherwise, explosion. Should I get married? Married or not married, married or not married, married or not married. So on an extra button to get the desired answer. Yes. So we are in this way, dealing with transcendental knowledge, which gives us regulative principle. Yes. Brahma Bhuta, yes. Aham Brahmasmi, yes. We are not this body. Oh yes, we are practicing it. Oh Brahmachari, remember, when sex desire arrives, it will arrive. In the Pajavali, there's also a verse which gives a whole list of things, austerity and more things. It says, and then, not by performing austerity, not by performing sacrifice, not by cultivation of knowledge, and it says, not by wearing saffron cloth can we chase away lust. Yeah. But by devotional service. By devotional service, lust can be overcome. Daivye gunamayi mamamaya duratya mamevye prapadnite mayamitam tarantite. By devotional service, we can be delivered from the material energy. So we begin also with our transcendental knowledge, first practicing devotional service combined with philosophy. When we are attacked by the 6 enemies of material existence, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Moha, Matsarya, lust, greed, anger, madness, illusion, and envy, then sometimes we have to resort to philosophy. Sometimes we have to resort, remember, I'm not the body. Sometimes we have to resort to taking shelter of the mode of goodness. This is prescribed duty. This is how to do it. Because not yet has the knowledge fully entered into our heart. Still too much in the head and not sufficient into the heart, where it just pierces the heart and makes the head spin, and where we just become overwhelmed by the transcendental experience of Krishna. So ultimately, transcendental knowledge has to be realized in depth, in the heart, appreciating how wonderful is Krishna, how amazing it is that I have this opportunity to serve Him. What greater thing could one do with one's life? Here I have this gift, life. It's my life. I've got it. Oh yes, I've got this life. I'm still young also. I have it ahead of me. Now I can do so many things. What will I do with my life? The burning question. What are you going to do with your life? Are you going to waste your life? No, now you're talking. Life is important. Even that demon Vrikasura who got the benediction from Lord Shiva that whomever he touch, the head would just explode. Well, it's a bit intense, right? It's a bit intense benediction to ask for. Anyway, that's what he did. And he got it from Lord Shiva, and then he wanted to try it on Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva was running. Then Lord Vishnu appeared like a brahmachari, sees this demon running, says, "Oh, my dear Vrikasura, why are you running so much? Why are you running so much?" He says, "Oh, I got this benediction from Lord Shiva that anyone I touch, so I'm trying to test it." Yeah. Oh, said like, the brahmachari said, if you're running so much, right, that may not be good for your health. Sure. Oh, well that makes sense. That's important. My health. Yes, my health is very important. Yes, take care of your life. Yes, my life. My life is everything. It's my life. I mean, that's what I have. No, really. Very important. Yes, the demon said. Yes, this brahmachari is intelligent. He stopped. He listened to him. Then the brahmachari said, you're running after Lord Shiva, wanting to touch him on the head, but I tell you, I know Lord Shiva. How can you trust him? How can you just trust him? Isn't that a little bit naive? Well, that's true. Who can you trust anyway in this world? Thought the demon. Because demons don't trust anyone. They can't trust anyone. Demons associate with demons, and how can you trust a demon? Your friend will rip you off any moment. He's your friend. When you have demons for friend, who knows what will happen next? Right. Then the brahmachari said, I don't believe he gave it to you. You do. Very naive, very naive. If you believe that you really got it, test it out. Touch your head and see what happens. Yeah, makes sense. Touched his head, exploded, and that was the end of Vrikasura. Our life is so important. But we have to become totally convinced by transcendental knowledge that the best thing we can do with our life is devotional service. And are we sure about that? Prabhupada called in his leading man into his room, and he asked him, "Are you convinced?" Everyone looked down. No one was going to say anything. Are we convinced? Oh, Vincent, are you convinced? Huh? Yes. Are we convinced? To become thoroughly convinced of transcendental knowledge, we have to live according to transcendental knowledge. And then gradually more and more realization will come. And Srila Prabhupada would call that the land map argument, or refer to a map. And if you have a map, right, and you go by the map and you travel and you see that for the first 100 kilometers the map is very good, then you start to believe in the map. And then after, you even see places where you've never been. You say, yeah, this place, it's 22.5 kilometers. And you say with great faith, because you've already got experience of the map. In this way, by practicing Krishna consciousness based on transcendental knowledge, we get realization and our faith will grow. And until we get full realization, and then our faith is complete. And then we'll say, no, they didn't go to the moon. Why? Because Bhagavatam. Then we'll have full faith in Srimad Bhagavatam. No matter what the world says, we stick with Bhagavatam. And if they say that singing, better late than never, if they say that singing should be stopped, then we know who is speaking. Who is speaking now? We know. Vrikasura and his kin, right? We know who is speaking. Hiranyakasipu and Ravana, who depend on the ascending process and who think that they'll beat a virus with science. But we know, oh no, we will sing the holy name of the Lord until the day we die, right? Because we know that holy name will save us. And even if the holy name will not save us from death, at least the holy name will save us from another birth, right? And will take us back to Godhead. Therefore, we will chant the holy name of the Lord until the day we die. When I read that, it pushed a button in me. I go like, what? As you can see, I mean, like, I go, what? Demons. Kirtanya Sadahari. Let us simply always chant the holy name. All right, I will end here on a high note. Any questions, any comments? No, it's all right. Nature.
He's got his own prominence in his own way. But, it's definitely a fact, if we think about it, that everyone in the material world, their life is based on a philosophy. Mm-hmm. Everyone is a philosopher. Mm-hmm. They may not think about the philosophy because they've accepted it so much, but there is an underlying philosophy that what am I? Which is, a fundamental question in philosophy. I am this body. And what is my business? What is this world? It is a place of enjoyment. And what must I do? I must enjoy. So, yeah, in that sense, even a child, you could say, certainly every adult is a philosopher. Yeah.
Goethe, right now talking a mundane philosopher, but Goethe, he said that he did a thing where he said he gave the child as a philosopher, the middle age as a philosopher, old age as a philosopher. So he said, in childhood, one is a realist. One wants to try and figure out what reality is. What are apples? What are pears? What is going on here? So he says, a child is a realist. A youth is an idealist. Right? What can I attain in my life? In midlife, one becomes a cynic. One becomes a skeptic. Right? One doesn't believe anymore in anything. Seen it all, known it all. I know what it's all about. But in old age, he says, one becomes a mystic. Because, he said, in old age, you see that it's not going on by logic. The people that are so qualified, that have all the attributes, they're not becoming successful in life. And some fool who really didn't have anything to his name, he becomes a success. It's not going on by logic. It's going on by a higher force. That's why it says in old age, one becomes a mystic. Now, I thought about it. It's not so shallow, because this is really Krishna's script. Huh? Krishna has arranged it. I think he caught something there. So the child is indeed a realist. A youth is an idealist. In midlife, one is becoming a bit skeptical. And in old age, everything is becoming more favorable to see God. Somehow or other, we lose our power, we become reduced, we become a bit more humble, a bit more vulnerable. It is just so much more natural to start praying. So there is a plan of the Supreme Lord, and maybe the philosopher got a hint of it. Didn't fully capture it, but got a hint of it. Anyway, just to add a mundane element to your statement. Everyone has a philosophy, which is very true. Anyone else? Rumi.
Maharaj was speaking about the ascending order and descending order of knowledge. And we were reading about that in the Ishopanishad. But the statement that comes after that, or just before, is that Veda means all knowledge. Okay.
Couldn't hear that last. What did you say? Something all knowledge.
Veda means all knowledge. So does that mean ascending and descending knowledge is Veda?
Ascending knowledge is a process of trying to attain knowledge without a higher source, and trying to come up with one's own ideas. Whereas descending knowledge is knowledge that comes from revelation of the Supreme Lord. Now, the thing is this, is that ultimately, even the ascending knowledge, which is perverted knowledge, has some bearing on reality. Therefore, it cannot go away completely from the true source of knowledge. It winds up becoming a perverted reflection. But then we see knowledges that are levels of knowledge that are very perverted. Atheism, right? Sunyavad, right? This is all. So the non-Vedic knowledge has a connection, a perverted connection with the absolute truth. It's not possible to come up with any knowledge that has no connection with the absolute truth. But but being perverted, it becomes directly opposed to the absolute truth, and is described as the crocodiles, right? The crocodiles of various philosophies. We were speaking about some mundane philosophers. I quoted two mundane philosophers today, right? But they are considered crocodiles. But we also looked at, like, just the last example of Goethe. We can see how there is has some bearing of truth in it. Something logical we can understand. So logic is there within Vedic context, right? But logic is to be used as a means to gain knowledge. But logic is not sufficient alone. It needs to be in combination with revealed knowledge. Just like this example of Nietzsche, right? There seem to be many inimical things. He says we're living in a hostile universe. There are viruses floating around. That's an attack, right? We are how many times have we heard the word war in relation? We are at this, governments are saying we're at a stage of war. It's attack. It's like, so here's Nietzsche, you know. See, it's Nietzsche illustrated. There's a hostile universe. Yes, my dear Nietzsche. That is true. But behind it all is the benevolent Lord, the Supreme Lord. He is all good, and therefore ultimately it has a positive purpose. It has a good purpose, but we cannot see. But through transcendental knowledge we can see that there is a good purpose, even in this whole virus, or even in death, or, you know, which is like, virus is just a threat. What about death? Huh? There's this medieval painting which just shows death, and it shows there are no survivors in that painting, and it's full of people, and they're all just being killed in different ways by the agents of death. It's just death. And it's like, just like Prabhupada, they would say, in India the death rate is very high. And Prabhupada would say, well, as far as I can see, it's not very high in India, not any higher than anywhere else. As far as I can see, the death rate is the same everywhere, 100%. Prabhupada had this kind of like very down-to-earth logic, right? So down-to-earth, just going to the root of things. Yeah. So, without descending knowledge, philosophy will go astray. And some seems to be close, and some seems to be distant. Which one's more dangerous? The one that's very distant, or the one that's close? I mentioned one more materialistic personality today, Freud. So, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, to quote another mundane authority, debatably so, but it says that Freud had the biggest impact on the intellectual life of modernity. Whether it's Freud or Darwin, we can talk about it, but we're all buying into this idea of the pressure cooker, that we are walking pressure cookers, and that if we are not letting out the steam, that we are in big trouble. Therefore, what will repression accomplish is quoted out of context many times, and stated as, yes, let out the steam. But Krishna consciousness can diminish the steam in the pressure cooker. It can actually bring down the pressure. Anartapasamam saksat bhakti yogamadakshiji, by taking away the impurities that cause the pressure. So it's a different approach, and it's by flooding transcendental knowledge into our consciousness, Chetudarpanam marjanam, drive out all the impurities, drive out all these causes of pressure, and therefore there's no need to let out the steam of the pressure cooker. And that's revolutionary. I mean, the whole world is buying into this. You gotta let out the pressure. That's the way it is. Be honest. Be honest what? About your lower nature? No. Forget the lower nature. We're talking about war on illusion, right? War on trying to enjoy the material energy. We are looking for pure devotional service, and that is the solution. Okay, now you have the last question, and then we'll... Okay.
That if you do something frequently, if you frequently do something, it becomes habit. It becomes something that is registered on your consciousness, and then after some time it happens by itself. It starts to trigger itself.
Right.
Like if you sleep early, like 7 o'clock, and then you are meant to wake up
Right.
4:30, even when you are not in the temple and you are out somewhere, still it'll just come up by itself like
Habits.
that. So my question is, when it comes to chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, does the law still apply, whereby, say for instance, does it come by itself, this urge to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra?
As I said earlier, all these philosophies are reflections of real philosophy. So we can see that there is apparently some effect. When you hear it, you say, yeah, there can be some truth in that. We notice that we can, in the consciousness, by some sort of regular repetition, we create some change in consciousness, whether it's a sound or a knowledge. Of course, in its proper Krishna conscious understanding, which is, so this philosophy is only hinting of the real truth. The real truth is by repeating the name of the Lord, we develop attachment. By repeating activities in devotional service, we develop attachment. And this attachment will fructify into love. We develop love. And in this way, the real result is love, not some sort of hypnotic trance. They sometimes think like that that's what the Hare Krishnas are doing. A trance dance, See him on the street. And the people are looking, my God, they're in trance. Look, they're in trance. Look at them. They're totally like in trance, just jumping up and down. That's it, a trance dance. No, it goes beyond trance dance to actually being attached to Krishna. And just not the repetition, not the hypnosis of the sound, but actually being attracted to Krishna. So we see that this trance dance, hypnotic kind of philosophy is a reflection of something greater. It's the shadow reflection. The shadow doesn't show all the color and all the variety. The variety shows actually that love is involved. Beloved. every aspect of it. Love for Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya would dance in transcendental madness. More than transcendental. Okay, we'll enter now. We stop now. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Well, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, oh, oh, oh.